Hi, folks. Welcome to the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2026 show. In today's episode, I'm joined by someone incredibly special. Hi, Neha. I don't get to say this often on my own show, considering we share the same name. But again, for the record, guys, this is the first time Neha and I are meeting. Sanchit was very kind enough to sort of share this contact, and I'm really glad that we connect on all things cricket. And what better occasion than to discuss yesterday's matches itself, right? Again, we saw a triple header, three very interesting matches itself. Sri Lanka registering what a 105-run win over Oman. We had Italy also, pull off. I wouldn't call it an upset at this point. Italy is just like right up there with their cricketing prowess, defeating Nepal. And India, landing a proper punch, 93-run statement win over Namibia. Just a very action-packed lineup, so to say. Yeah, first things first, how you feeling on the show itself, and like just your thoughts on yesterday's matches?
First of all, thank you for having me and for such a sweet introduction. It's great to finally be here on the show because I've been following your show since a while now, and it's been amazing to be here. And about yesterday's match, I think those were like thrillers in their own way. To the nail biting defend and then the chase. I think all three of the clashes stole the show because in general, this World Cup is getting quite interesting because no one saw it coming that the small teams or the teams that aren't that much competitive as per previous opinions of the entire world. But I think they are giving a nail biting this competition to every other team out there. And talking about Sri Lanka versus Oman, I think that was like mind blowing game because Sri Lanka put up a huge total on that scoreboard, and it was completely a one-sided dominance, I would say. Although the Oman players did put up a good fight, but again, at the end of the day, it's who wins. So
Yeah, let's probably actually get started with match 16 itself, right? Oman taking on Sri Lanka. Like, again, you did share your first thoughts on the game, right? Being that sort of an encounter where Sri Lanka batting first got to a massive total. But let's talk about the toss itself, right? Now, Oman opted to field first, right? Do you think somewhere that decision itself reflected their confidence in chasing, right? Or did you think they sort of underestimated Sri Lanka's batting depth? Because it did prove to be a very high scoring surface in itself, right? So, just what did you make of the toss decision itself?
I think keeping in mind that Wankhede usually is not that huge of a ground, so you can easily, just get away with fours and sixes and can release that pressure at any given moment. But I think Oman was a bit confident when they thought that okay, we can actually chase, and I don't think so that they saw it coming. That Sri Lanka will put up 230, 225, and 200 plus total is always a huge of a task for any team out there, whether it is Oman or whether it is even any other big team. And at 1K, things can change really quickly. But I think if they could have chose if they could have batted first Oman, I think it would have been better for them because batting first you have a bit less pressure, and when you are batting against Sri Lanka, you can never underestimate their bowling lineup or their spinners or any bowler. So I think it would have been better for Oman, definitely, no doubt, if they would have batted first with less pressure and actually an ease that okay, we can put up a defending total. Because chasing in a World Cup and chasing in a normal tournament are two completely different things. World Cup pressure is at another level, whether it is a group stage match or a knockout. So I think they clearly didn't see it coming, but hats off to Sri Lanka's middle order and top order batters as well because after the openers got out for early, I think they really bounced back quite strong with that sort of strike rate and that power hitting. I think they clearly sealed the game over there.
Yeah, because as you rightly pointed out, Sri Lanka was what 42 for 2 inside the first 6 overs itself. Now, again, how crucial do you think, right, was that stabilizing phase between Kushal Mendes and Pavan Rathnayake? I think a lot of people were sort of criticizing him, like, is he the right kind of option you want at that number three, number four position? And especially that 50-run third wicket partnership, right? Just coming off 30 balls, quite, I think confidently we can say, shifted the momentum in Sri Lanka's favor there.
Definitely, because you, every team, every other team wants that their openers to do well because power play is really crucial. You can really get, those 30, 40 some odd runs extras that can help you and that actually puts the pressure on the opposition, whether it is Sri Lanka or any other team. So I think the third wicket partnership was quite crucial, and the way Ratnayake played, I think it was commendable because I think his strike rate was 214. So batting with a strike rate of 200 plus, when you know that you've lost both your openers quite early, I think that shows the type of confidence and the level of confidence you have in your own game and how you know that okay you can take the game away from the opposition at any given moment because everyone wants to have a good at least 40-50 runs in the power play but Sri Lanka I think they lost those quick two wickets and it could have been put pressure on the middle order batsmen but I think they played really well and took those singles and doubles because you can't always rely on those, big sixes and fours because rotating the strike is what, keeps the pressure at the opposition. So I think that was the quite, strategized and calculative gameplay from both the batters.
Yeah, 100%. And to specifically just spotlight even Pavan Rathnayake, right? 60 coming of just 28 balls. I think it's fair to say, right? It was quite the performance that earned him player of the match and tilted the scales entirely in Sri Lanka's favor. Again, do you think his counterattack was like the real game changer there?
Definitely, I think it's always like crucial that how you can bounce back in the game and the way the batters and the bowlers both. I think they tried their best. I won't lie. Like field placements, whether it is how you are like communicating regularly with your bowlers and all. That's also something that I observed that it was good. Although I think Shanaka and Ratnayake both they were like too difficult to tough nut to crack in the yesterday's match because they were batting it such flawlessly, scoring those and finding those gaps and continuously rotating the strike. So I think it was good, but they could have done better, Oman bowlers, when it comes to the attacking part, because bowling wicket to wicket was what was actually required, and we all know that. Okay, Wankhede, of course, it does have something in every other match for the bowlers, but it's your job how you will find that thing.
Yeah, probably Oman can definitely take a lot of learnings, right? Because Sri Lanka on home conditions are an entirely different beast. And if you just look at the way Sri Lanka went about their construction itself, right? The power play, they were 58 for 2. Middle overs, they almost scored 100 runs there. Thanks to, again, how Pavan Ratnaik is going. Again, when you just look at his wagon wheel itself, he's in control for 79% of his innings. His most productive shot, again, being the cover drive. And you watch the highlights and just have a look at ESPN with their stats itself, you can see, right, how a great chunk of his runs just came through boundaries, right? Eight fours and that 1-6. The way he's rotating strike, the singles and the doubles he took, largely helping the cause. And one other, performance that we really need to speak about is that of Dasam Shanaka, right? Another explosive knock, 50 of just 20 balls, right? The partnership also, something that really did help. Again, do you think this was the point where Sri Lanka effectively delivered the knockout punch, and the total was just always going to be out of Oman's reach, right?
Oh, for sure, because as a captain, I think you always have a lot of tasks on your plate, no doubt. And when you know that, okay, you're the two batters that came before you, they have played flawlessly well. So I think finishing the game is always the crucial part where it can make or break the game. Because we, of course, even in the India versus Namibia game, we saw how Hardik concluded the innings of India. So I think, again, Shanaka, like, he literally played with the strike rate of 250, which is commendable. See, looking at the condition where the game actually was at that particular moment, and 20 balls, 50 runs is something that is like something that should be applauded definitely. And it's your captain who's leading from the front, so automatically even your entire the coming batters and your bowling lineup even gets that confidence that okay, we have put that huge of a total in front of the other team, that too like 200 to 20 plus. That is always the make or break part, because some 170, 180, 190 is, of course, any day it's a defending total, it's a good total, but looking at how the teams are playing these days and how aggressively they are scoring, so I think it's always good to, have that sort of a knock and finish it like that.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that one because Sri Lanka did, end up with a very competitive total on the board, right? 225 for five. In Sri Lankan conditions, is always going to be an uphill task, and not a lot to talk about Oman's bowling effort itself, right? I think besides Ramanandi, like none of the other bowlers, could create that sort of an impact. Albeit he was a little expensive, yet it clearly wasn't going to be enough. And just, probably taking our attention over to Oman and their batting side of things, right? Now, they were 36 for 3 in the power play, not the most ideal thing. Again, I think the new ball burst, right, from Maheesh Theekshana and Dushmantha Chamira really setting the tone there, right, for Sri Lanka. Sorry, I think you're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. Yeah, so I think that both the bowlers did their job pretty well, because getting the openers out is always a team's task. That okay, when you can get two consecutive wickets and in a quick succession, I think that's really something that puts the pressure on the opposition. That too, when you know that the target is that huge, and I think that was really commendable from both the bowlers. And knowing that okay, the ground in Sri Lanka, it's not small, it's like quite huge. So you can't just release the pressure by firing those sixes and fours. You have to rotate the strike, you have to take those singles and doubles. But then again, losing those two quick wickets was definitely a great job from both of them.
Yeah, I think massive credit, right, to the way they really set the tone for Sri Lanka up front there. Again, I think what really turned out to be a positive for Oman from that batting effort has to be that of Mohammad Nadeem, right? 53 of 56. It at least offered Oman like some sense of respectability, middle order resistance, and all of that. Like, how would you contextualize this knock, right? I mean, again, it did come in a losing cause, and the strike rate was something that a lot of people were still discussing, and a lot of polarizing opinions there. But like again, how do you look at this knock?
I think Nadeem did pretty well, because looking at that condition when you have lost so many wickets, and wickets kept on falling from the other end, whether you are batting at 30 or 40, it doesn't matter. You always need someone at the other end who can hold that innings, who can, save their wicket. And, that's how you can rotate strike and, keep that scoreboard going on. But looking at Sri Lanka's bowlers, I think they really crushed the entire batting lineup of Oman. So I think looking at that condition, playing to knock off 53 in 56 is pretty good to me, because you can't always come and just smash sixes all over the park. You have to look at the conditions. T20 game definitely it requires you to be aggressive and more quick, because you don't have that much time, and the uh, difference is always getting bigger between the balls and the target that you have. But I think when your team has lost those many wickets, and just you have to keep going, so I think single-handedly, he actually was trying to save his entire team. But I think if the total would have been a bit lesser, then still I think there was a chance for Oman and Muhammad Alim as well to score those big shots and take those chances. But when you know that you are the only the sole warrior standing up for your team, and there are no wickets or there are no partner at the other end who can support you, I think you have to be a bit calculated, and actually he did that pretty well.
Yeah, because again, when you just look at Oman's batting card itself, right, besides Mohammad Nadeem and Wasim Ali, none of the other batters even crossed that double figure mark, right? Of course, the extras playing a role there with 15 runs, being contributed. And I think here's where we can probably take a few comments coming in our live chat as well. Unknown Nobody goes on to say Oman was never in the game. They had small sparks, but it was clearly never going to be enough. Reiterating a point that you brought in. Sanchit, again, a friend of the podcast, says nobody should sleep on Sri Lanka. Yes, they're yet to play a top side, but they've shown enough signs that they're definitely up there to be taken seriously as favorites, which is a valid point, right? I know right now the T20 World Cup, a lot of people are just like so bored, like it's the group stages, we're playing against associate nations and all that. They're putting in like good fights as well, but again, can't ignore the big boys, so to say, right? And Sanchit, as always, being the kindest person he is, saying, huge fan, Neha. He means both of us in this case. Thanks, Sanchit. Really appreciate that coming in. And let's probably take our discussion over to match 17, right? Italy versus Nepal. I think a lot of us had our expectations set really high, considering how Nepal had almost given England a heart attack in one of those earlier matches. Again, just your first thoughts on the game itself, right? Italy just came out of syllabus. They won by 10 wickets with 44 balls to spare. Talk about a statement win like that, right?
For sure. I mean, looking at the last game between England and Nepal, I definitely expected, a bit more thrill and excitement and, that fighting spirit and that game. But unfortunately, Nepal couldn't do that, because when you know that you actually, were successful to get to that 180 plus mark, you, of course, you lost, sadly. But when you know that you have performed that well in the previous game, that too against England, then I think against Italy it would have been a bit more competitive match. But again, credit goes to both the opening batters and the brothers that really sealed the game for them. But I think batting first at that ground, when you know that you can score those big sixes and fours, I think the total should definitely would have been more, and 120 plus is never a good total that you have to give to your bowlers to defend, because at least 160, 170, when you cross that mark, your bowlers have something on their plate to defend. So I think they lost the game over there when they gave them 120 plus total.
Yeah, all valid points. Sometimes, you just lose the plot with some very minor, strategic and tactical mistakes itself. And very aptly asked here by Unknown Nobody too, right? Is this the same Nepal who nearly toppled England, right? Because they looked like a very pale shadow of what they sort of promised in that initial game itself. And again, Sanchit goes on to add that Nepal did a good job versus England when they had nothing to lose. But when everybody expected them to do well versus Italy, they played a very defensive brand of cricket, which obviously disappointed a lot of fans. But let's actually sort of analyze the match further, right? Because the toss itself, now Italy won the toss, they chose to field first, right? When you look at this decision itself, do you think it was largely driven by Wankhede's, chasing friendly nature? Dew hasn't played a role so far, but just again, that could have possibly played in their minds, you think?
I think yes, because looking at the Wankhede conditions, and it's not that huge. It's definitely in the back of every captain's, every team's mind that the toss is of course crucial in any given moment. But still, I think chasing at Wankhede is better, and it's more safe when you're not challenging the opposition. That okay, let's try and experiment in bat first. So I think that toss was really crucial and Italy got it. So I think it was the right decision when we look at it that way, because of course you put pressure on the opposition and you stopped them at 120. So obviously you sealed 50% of your game over there. So I think it was a good decision in my opinion.
Yeah, it did feel like a good decision too, right? Because like when you'd ideally assume that Italy, like I think Sanchit also spoke about it on the show of them having such great batters, and most of them sort of have that experience coming in, so they can obviously chase down any given total that's on board. But Nepal too, right, to their credit, at what, 49 for 1 in 7 overs, it looked like things were steady, right? Here's where I think we can actually do a proper dissection and anatomy of a breakdown there. Suddenly from 49 for 1 they collapsed to 102 for 8, right? I think here's where we really need to talk about just what went wrong, and massive credit there to Crishan Kalugamage. Like, okay, apologies if I'm getting the pronunciation wrong, but I think he was just like bowling at a whole different level, right? His figures of 3 for 18, literally speaking for himself. But how do you just look at Nepal and their batting effort, and how Italy is probably just better with the ball on the day?
I think Nepal, I don't know why, but they were trying to be very, doing the safe play part that okay, we'll try to save wickets, and when you try to do that, the exact opposite happens in that condition because it's T20. We all know the type of game people and type of game team play. So that their batting order was literally like 5, then 20, 23, 24, 27. So when your scores are like that, your top order and your middle order both, then what are you gonna do? Their highest score yesterday was 27, and you can't expect your batters to play like that and then set up even not even 150 plus total at that ground. And when you know that you have to defend that total, that too at Wankhede in conditions where you know that chasing gets a bit easy, and it's always a danger zone when you are defending. So you have to make sure that you put up a great total over there. But I think they just collapsed when they lost to those 2 3 wickets. They didn't even seem to try that much that okay, we have to bounce back, so we'll start attacking. So I think they went into the defensive mode more than the attacking mode yesterday, because we clearly saw how they played against England. When you know that England is better than you on the charts, but you still gave your, more than 200%, I would say. But yesterday it was a bit disappointing. I won't say that they didn't even try at all. They did. But I think the dots didn't connect for them yesterday.
Yeah, it was just one of those very forgettable outings, as you rightly pointed out. But again, how impactful was Crishan, Kalugamage with his 3 for 18? It literally broke, right, the backbone of Nepal's middle order, and massive credit to him again.
Definitely. I think he bowled tremendously well, like 3 for 8, that like with an economy of 4.50. It is definitely economical when you know that okay, you have to defend, you have to chase at that given moment. But I think the way he was bowling with that perfect line and length and being very calculative, like what areas to target for what specific bowler, and going the wicket to wicket and not giving those chances to even the batter to strike and score those big shots, because we all know that even one or two sixes can release that pressure and it can take the momentum away from your own hands. So I think his spell was like the make or break part, and he actually like did pretty well, because you of course you want that top order to the other team's top order to collapse so that you have a chance, because even the power play or even those overs 8 to 14 overs, I think that is a crucial part in any sort of game. It can The momentum can be shifted to any particular side. It doesn't matter how many wickets they have lost. That's where you build a partnership. And I think taking those wickets, that's where he actually made sure that okay, Nepal never gets their rhythm, and they didn't, sadly.
Yeah, it was just again a very forgettable outing in that regard, right? Because with skipper Rohit Paudel and even you had Arif Sheikh, right? Both of them felt like they got starts, but again, that conversion was something that they quite literally lacked. And again, the outcome is for all of us to see there. They stumbled to a 123 all out. And again, from a bowling perspective, we've spoken, right, of things that did work out really well. Besides, the main chief architect for that, you still had Ben Manenti with 2 wickets as well. Ali Hassan, JG Smuts, and Jasprit Singh as well, right? All of them just chipping in with wickets to ensure Italy was always going to be in the game. Here's where I think Sanchit had brought in an earlier comment of, we got two Moscow's gunning down Nepal, and now we have two Nehas on the podcast today after coincidence, right? Again, the brothers, right? Justin and Anthony Moscow, who decimating Nepal's bowling there, chasing that total in 13 overs and making it look like an absolute walk in the park there, right?
Definitely, no doubt. I mean, you obviously knew that okay, you don't have that great of a total, but it's always the World Cup pressure and things can change really quickly. But both these brothers, they never gave Nepal's bowlers the chance that okay, you can get back into the game because 1, 2 wickets can quickly take away that momentum from you and can put the pressure on the batters. But I think the way they batted so flawlessly and targeting every particular bowler because we knew everyone was talking about Nepal's spinners and their bowling attack because they did pretty well against England. So the pressure was expected to be on Italy and not on Nepal, but the exact opposite happened yesterday because you know that you were close enough to that win against England, and now you just collapsed. I think both the batters, I think Anthony Mosca especially batted with the strike rate of 193. That was like they were making it look like it's as if it's a cakewalk or something, and just sweeping all around the stadium. I think it was perfectly commendable.
Yeah, and for the uninitiated, Justin, Mosca, 44 ball 60. Anthony Mosca at the other end, 32 ball 62. And they wrapped up the chase, right? 12.4 overs, giving absolutely nothing away to the Nepal bowlers there. Let's probably take a few, comments from our live chat itself. Sanchit goes on to say, credit goes to Italy. They never really allowed Nepal to have a sniff in the game. Manenti and Kalugamage were just too good, economical, and took 3 wickets each. Yeah, I mean, valid point there. Like, as much as we, sort of talk about how Nepal didn't get a lot of things right, credit is, credit where it's due. And I think Italy really, really did a good job. Again, goes on to add, Italy have a mix of good players who have plenty of county experience and also a few key BBL players compared to Nepal. So does this really count as an upset? I think most of us, took Italy for granted at our own peril, and I think the outcome is for all of us to see. Unknown Nobody also goes on to say Ben Monenti is already a BBL star. His spin was unreadable by Nepal. And Sanchit says Nepal's key strength were their spinners. Moscow Bros just took them to the cleaners, never allowed them to settle. What a performance, right? Again, yeah, the kind of opening partnership they had, the rest of the batting literally didn't have to do anything. Again, I agree with Anu Nobody on this one that Nepal is trying to probably live up to the hype that they've created. They have to understand that handling pressure is like part and parcel of that point. And I think, Neha, you brought in this point earlier that Nepal never really took advantage of the start that they got, right? At the power play or at the 7 overs mark, they were like 41, 49 for one, and then suddenly they just collapsed to that. So, it was quite concerning in that regard. Even the intent from Italy's Moscow brothers took game to Italy itself, which was missing from Nepal. Nepal were timid in that way. Hopefully, Nepal can find a way to sort of bounce back. Right, too good a team to sort of be defined by this game in their campaign itself. And yeah, of course, we have Syed joining us saying Italy may surprise everyone with their performances, and that's something we're really looking forward to. Right, for the longest time, you look at Italy and you look at them as being a giant in the world of football. Imagine them being a giant in the world of cricket too, right? They have a lot of good stars, and they were in the news for the wrong reasons, right? A lot of players not like residing there and not choosing to play. Joe Burns, the entire controversy. So good to see them, have their cricket sort of do the talking. But yeah, they will again take a lot of confidence from the fact that they won by 10 wickets, 44 balls to spare. I think this will be one of those classics, classic underdog fight itself. And before we move on to our next match, Neha, I'll probably direct this one to you. I know nobody asks us, can Italy take down England? Now, again, if this was a football conversation, I think it would just take us on a tangent. But again, in the world of cricket, do you see this happen?
After seeing what they did yesterday, I think we can expect that because before this match or before this World Cup, we weren't expecting uh, those Italy or Nepal or any sort of teams to give that fighting that competition to other teams. But the way they dominated yesterday and then they didn't give Nepal any chances to bounce back, whether it is bowling or whether it is their batting, because winning with 10 wickets in such crucial matches with World Cup pressure on your shoulders, I think we can definitely see that. And when you know that, okay, Nepal already gave a tough competition to England quite a few matches ago, so I think we can definitely see a tough competition between Italy and England in the future.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. We're just putting it out in the universe, manifesting that to happen, right? Because England themselves are on shaky ground there. And probably, an upset or two could just really see that group spice up, right? Not a lot of people had thought that group could be competitive and alive. And what better match than this to do that? Sachin also goes on to say, we're yet to witness the customary English mess up, versus an associate team in an ICC event. I think a perfect Valentine's Day gift would be this. Italy, please do the honors. Sanchit has again put it out there. So, again, not a lot to say for us there. Oh, and Anwar Nobody goes on to say England never won against a European team in World Cups. Well, this is something
This
that's
is
new. This is going to be an interesting one. You heard it first on Never on the Back Foot, guys. If this does end up happening, you know where to, whom to contact next. But jokes apart, let's talk about match 18, right? India versus Namibia itself. I think a lot of people knew, right? India were the overwhelming favorites entering the game itself. But again, Neha, like, what were your first thoughts on the game? A 93-run win for the hosts themselves. The performance itself, reflected a lot about the batting depth and just having bowling control in like great phases of the game itself. So for you, a complete team performance.
I would say yes, we did well in both batting and bowling departments. But looking at the way India started, they completed, those 100 runs in just 6.5 overs. So at a particular moment, I think everyone was expecting that okay, आज 300 पार जो चल रहा है, I think that chant that is going on 300 cross, I think that was looking like possible at a particular moment because looking at the way Ishan Kishan was striking all over the park, that was crazy because in the one particular over it was like six, 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 and then four. So it was completely like a dominance, but again, we saw it against USA as well, and then we witnessed against Namibia as well yesterday that right after India loses one or two wickets, the momentum does get shift to the opposition for a while, at least if I'll say that, because against USA Sky did well and we crossed that 1760 plus mark. But yesterday again, Hardik Pandya did pretty well, scoring those big shots and finishing the game off. But I think the total was good. Again, it's always good to put 209 on the board when you know that you'll have to defend. So they gave a pretty decent total to the bowlers out there. I wouldn't say that they did bad. And then bowling again, Varun Chakravarthy with his spin trap. I think he pretty much did well, but at a given moment, even Namibia was playing really well and they were batting really well and was like looking as if they might pull it off at least. So I think the high total 209 pressure and the spin trap from Varun Chakravarti and then that amazing bowling from Hardik Pandya, I think really did seal the game.
Yeah, I mean, let's take it from the top itself, right? From the toss. I mean, Namibia won the toss. They chose to field first, right? Now, again, this is the Arun Jaitley Stadium, a traditionally high scoring Delhi surface itself. Again, in hindsight, right? Somewhere, I think a lot of people were prompted to believe that the decision itself backfired. Now, this is India's explosive top order you're looking at. Probably, just put yourself to bat first, test yourself against the Indian bowlers and then, sort of defend that total. But letting India bat, considering the kind of beasts they have in their batting lineup, probably a decision that Namibia might reconsider going ahead.
For sure. I think if I actually expected the moment I saw that okay, Namibia won the toss, and I was like, okay, they are going to just ask them to just bat first, that we'll bat first. But I don't know like what they did, and even though Surya Kumar Yadav was asked that okay, what were you guys going to do? So he said, okay, we were also going to bat first, which was surprising, I would say. But India is at a position they can think of experimenting. Maybe I don't know because they know that they have a huge like giant of a batting lineup. But again, I think if Namibia would have batted first, it would have been better for them to bat first, go out there and express yourselves and score those big shots, take those chances because you don't have that scoreboard pressure or the that run rate pressure on your shoulders. So I think it was maybe more of an experimental call to go out there and do that batting first. But I think I don't know why India thought that they should have batted first, although it didn't backfire on us. We anyways got what Suryakumar Yadav was thinking of choosing. But Namibia should have batted first, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I really felt that, right? I genuinely thought, they could have possibly made most of the conditions not battered with that pressure, because putting India to bat first, you saw what happened, right? At one point, India did lose. I think they lost Sanju Samson a little early on, but you still had, someone like an Ishan Kishan, 24 balls, scoring that 61. Didn't let the scoreboard put any sort of pressure on him. The power play that happened, right? 86 for one. It ensured that it completely took the game away from Namibia inside the first 6 overs itself. Just talk to us about Ishan Kishan, this 2.0 version that we see, right? Just going berserk from ball one itself. And just seems to have found some new life in this, Indian T20 side.
Without a doubt. I mean, Ishan Kishan is playing in its own league. I don't know what has gotten into him since the New Zealand series has started. I think he is just, it looks like he has nothing to lose, so he is not scared of any bowler or any opposition, whether it is against New Zealand in a normal in a normal bilateral series or whether it is World Cup. Even in the last game against USA, he was in his attacking mode. Unfortunately, he got out. That's that part. But okay, again against Namibia, when you know that okay, your other opening partner, he lost his wicket, but then again the way he striked and just took on the bowlers, I think that was pretty like I was awestruck to watch that, to be very honest, because you're batting at that strike rate, and if he would have continued playing like that for just 3-4 more overs, then India would have crossed like 150 plus by the end of 11 overs or something like that, because he looked in great touch, whether it is against spin or against fast bowlers. I think he looked pretty flawless.
Yeah, and he clearly made batting look like so effortless, right? With that knock, as you rightly said, he was striking at 254, hit 6 fours and 5 6. It was just like watching a video game simulation where a bat was just going berserk, right? And here's what I probably want to bring in that part too of I think Sanchit brought in this very valid observation that I wouldn't be surprised if teams now bombard Tilak Verma with consistent off spin when he comes out to bat. He really needs to find a way. Again, the fact that Tilak Verma, right, ever since he came back from his injury, has probably blown hot and cold. Like we've seen him, flashes of him score those runs, but again, his dismissal pattern has become quite predictable. Again, Neha, like how do you look at Tilak Verma, his form? Briefly, there was a phase right where India lost a bunch of wickets. Again, we'll talk about Hardik Pandya and his exploits, but him not being in form again, slight cause for concern.
It's a huge concern, I would say, for India because he looked in great touch when he was playing in Asia Cup and he did won us that game. But ever since he came back from his injury, it's like he is finding it difficult to find his rhythm back. And even against Namibia yesterday, the Suryakumar Yadav was at the other end, and he actually tried to just start attacking after 2-3 balls. So he was trying to look for those fours and sixes. On the other hand, Tilak Verma, he had his time. He could have taken his time and that released that pressure, because previously what Tilak Verma used to do, he used to come out there on the field, take his time, get his rhythm, and then release that pressure by scoring those quick fours and sixes and taking those singles and doubles. But yesterday he was looking more like safe playing, I would say. He's finding it difficult to release that pressure. You are absorbing that pressure is okay, but how are you going to release that when the margin gets bigger and you don't have those many overs left with you? So of course, when you know that you are batting at 25 in 24, 23, some odd balls, you know that you have to strike back now, because otherwise the pressure always gets built up. And when he actually looked to score that six, he got out. So again, even though that you know that the ground wasn't that big, he is finding that timing part difficult as well to time the ball nicely and bat that well. So I think it's a huge concern for Team India at the moment because Tilak Verma is a batter who you can know he can make or break that game. He can build that long innings as well, where the other batter is striking heavily. He can hold that wicket, but again he is having difficulty in timing the ball or even scoring those quick runs, which can be a make or break. But I think he needs to find his rhythm back, especially in the next match. That's really crucial for India.
Yeah, very true. Because you'd expect him to sort of find his form right against, say, the lower ranked teams. But then the fact that he's still struggling does dogger well for India. Again, of just 21 balls, scoring 25, his strike rate again not being of repute or note. They're in a very similar pattern, right? Again, just falling to spinners, and the fact that India needs, to bolster their middle order bat, because even Suryakumar Yadav himself, right, sometimes has like waves of form that he does like really well, or just like has that sort of a decline. So having Tilak Verma at that number three becomes all the more crucial. And again, you look at India's batting too, right? They sort of had a mini stumble, right? Stumble like at 124 for 4, it felt like, do they still need that impetus, to get to that competitive total? Hardik Pandya comes to the party, 28 ball, 52. Shivam Dubey, at the other end, and they put a very imposing 50-run stand too, right, to ensure that the total was pushed beyond 200. Again, Neha, if you had to sort of just reflect on Hardik Pandya's knock and that partnership with Shivam Dubey.
I think Hardik Pandya played his role really well because, of course, looking at how Hardik Pandya naturally plays, he just comes out there at any given moment and he has this thing in his mind that, okay, I just have to attack. It doesn't matter who the bowler is. He has that thing in his mind and it clearly reflects in his batting style. So even yesterday, he didn't waste time and he actually was, continuously trying. Of course, luck favored him as well at a lot of places, but again, targeting the bowlers because I won't lie, Namibia was bowling pretty well yesterday, trying to keep the ball away from Hardik Pandya's reach. So he had to step up and score those shots and take that risk. So I think when Hardik Pandya got those 2 3 balls that weren't that much calculative or not that great of a length, I think he took that chance and scored those sixes. That gives you that momentum that you're finding, and once Hardik Pandya gets going, then there's no chance that you can stop him because he'll get out because of his own mistake and not because of the other bowlers' strategy or anything. If he is in that giant of a form, although when you know that okay between the overs of 8 to 12 when Erasmus took charge and he started attacking with his spin and the other spinners as well. India lost 3 wickets for just 20 runs and they had, I think, some 15, 16 or dot balls in those between those overs. So I think that definitely puts a pressure on your entire batting lineup that okay, when you know that your opener Ishan Kishan has given you that sort of a start and you completed 100 runs within 6.5 overs and then losing 3 quick wickets and 16 dot balls is huge. And huge credit goes to Shivam Dubey and Hardik Pandya both. I think Shivam Dubey played his part really well because he is also an attacking batter, but then he saw that Hardik Pandya is striking well, so he played his part really well by holding that, holding his wicket and scoring one to big shots. So I think again, Hardik Pandya clearly strike on the bowlers and give that India that finishing touch and those extra 40 50 runs that India requires. So yes.
I think for the longest time, India's wanted Hardik Pandya to be in this vein of form, just chipping in and contributing when the team sort of most needs him, considering the shaky middle order that we've been talking about. Unknown Nobody goes on to say that more than Tilak, probably Rinku struggles against spin is extremely painful to watch because of the number of wickets that India lost, right, in that final stage. Again, India lost, what, 5 wickets for 3 runs. And it definitely didn't make for great reading. But either case, they say all that ends well. India did end up with 209 for 9. And I think here's where we can take a moment to talk about Gerard Erasmus, right? 4 for 20 coming off his 4 overs. I think despite the scoreline, Namibia can take a lot of confidence, right, from his bowling performance. I think his spell ensured that there was this one phase where Namibia genuinely regained some control. Again, fair to say that.
For sure. I mean, looking at the way India started their innings, they could have went past 250 quite easily if they continued like that. But then Erasmus took charge, and then making those fielding positions, and then continuously changing the bowlers, and getting spinners into attack, because the batters were clearly striking fast bowlers pretty well. And then we have noticed against USA as well that India slightly struggles against spin. And looking at the bowling action of Erasmus, it's quite similar to Usman Tariq, I would say. So that's also a thing that we have to keep, India have to keep in mind, because it's quite a headache, I would say. So I think making those bowling changes when you know that your team is under pressure and the scoreboard is like huge in just 6.5 overs. So I think Erasmus did pretty well with that economy. What was his economy? That was, I think, also pretty good. And taking those crucial 4 wickets at crucial moments, I think he really did pretty well, with his role.
Yeah, very true. And let's probably, just talk about Namibia and their batting effort too, right? I think I agree with Sanchit's point here that the final scoreboard, doesn't really reflect how Namibia did in key phases, right? Death overs with the ball and also a decent start with the bat, because they were, 57 for one in the power play. And it felt like, whoa, what is happening here, right? Their openers, especially their top order, sort of giving them that glimmer of a hope, a start there. But once Varun Chakravarthy came into the attack, things again never really looked the same for them.
Definitely, I agree. I mean, at a particular moment, it was looking like possible for them to, get there or at least get close to that, total. And it never looked like that they'll get all out for that, that low margin. But I think they were trying, and they did get their momentum in the initial phase. They were striking the ball, and they were, being very calculative, and they did the smart game play yesterday. But then again, once Varun Chakravarthy, gets his spin trap, there's no chance for the bowlers. And we clearly saw how things can clearly change on that track. And I think spin win the game yesterday. That it doesn't matter if it was against India, the batters were struggling, and then again, when Namibia stepped in, again the batters were struggling when spin came in. So Varun Chakravarthy again with his line and length, and he tries to get batters to step out and take those risks, and give them that that chance that okay, I can take it, and that's where he strikes. So I think credit goes to Varun Chakravarti for sure.
Yeah, because just look at the kitty of batters in Varun Chakravarty's kitty, right? I mean, the fact that he got Steenkamp's wicket, Lofty Eaton, and even JJ Smith, right? These are massive wickets in that regard. And the fact that he was bowling so economically, while at it again, really, really augurs well for India, right? Because Varun's 3 for 7, tight spells from Hardik Pandya and Bumrah meant India, really did a good job with the ball. And yeah, like not a lot to talk about from a Namibia batting perspective. Briefly, we saw the likes of Jan Freiling and I think Laureen Steenkamp, doing something, but there's only so much, right? Even the captain can, the rest of the batting just quite literally succumbing to India's bowling there. Let's probably take a few comments in our live chat. Yeah, I think this is again a valid one from Unknown Nobody, who goes on to say India played their sea cricket. Also, India's issue with spin is a concern. Agree with you. Hopefully, against bigger teams, it doesn't get exposed and mean different things for their campaign itself. And yeah, I think even this pointer that I probably didn't take up earlier was Sanju's innings itself, right? It's a good sign for Team India. 8 ball 22. Again, he's been in that vein of form, right? Constantly being dropped, picked, getting not that much support from the selectors. And the times he does get the opportunity, him playing such impactful knocks, hopefully he could have gone in deeper. Again, is I think still great signs for India. And yeah, Anna Nobody also goes on to say round arm spin might get popular in the future. A little bit of a prediction there. Time will tell, if that does end up happening. But Yeah, folks, I think that pretty much does conclude our discussion as well. We saw three very interesting matches yesterday, and this conversation was great with Neha. So first things first, Neha, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I'm so lucky that I get to have you for the rest of the matches that happen in this group stages as well. So quite looking forward to those conversations. To all the folks who joined us in the live chat at this very ungodly hour of 9 a.m. I know most of you are busy with your work days. It really meant the world to us and added so much to our conversation. So thank you so much. You will continue to find us, at 11 a.m., discussing more things World Cup. So yeah, stick around and subscribe to us, folks, if you are catching this video later. But until next time, stay safe, take care, and once again, thank you so much. Cheers.